Hello everyone, I'm Noura Elmanssy. Welcome to In Depth with TommieMedia, a show that explores campus issues that affect you. The phrase all for the common good is trumpeted on campus banners and even apparel as a way to emphasize St. Thomas's mission statement and new branding. St. Thomas kicked off the campaign in February. President Julie Sullivan has been a driving force behind the effort, which she sees as an important step forward. I'm joined today by Dr. Sullivan. Thank you for your time.
My pleasure.
So what prompted the rebranding initiative?
It really came out of our strategic plan. As you know, one of our strategic priorities in the strategic plan is enhanced visibility and profile for the university. And by that, we want more people to appreciate the excellence of the education that's provided at St. Thomas. But to do that, we've got to tell our story in a more compelling, consistent, and coordinated fashion. We've got to tell the story about the difference that a St. Thomas education makes. We found two things when we were beginning the branding work. We would ask people, their perceptions of St. Thomas, and we would invariably receive responses from alumni, external groups. St. Thomas is a really good university. And then you would say, why? Well, I don't know. I just know it's a really good university. And so we needed to have that message. The other thing is a last point is we're recruiting for a number of different programs on campus. Obviously, we're recruiting students for our undergraduate program, but we're recruiting for all of our various graduate programs. And we found when we looked at the visual images and the messages that we were putting forth out there to prospective students and the public, there was no coordination. For example, I bought this to show you. This is what the various publications look like that came from our various schools and colleges trying to tout some St. Thomas program, center, or institute. And if you picked one up, you would not know that it came from St. Thomas if you looked at, nothing ever matched anything else. So we have to leverage our efforts when we're out in the market communicating to people, and it's consistent and compelling.
So the slogan, all for the common good, is at the heart of this campaign.
It is.
Why, in your estimation, is that crucial to highlight?
Well, that came out of our research. We spent a year and a half on this effort. We had research that involved focus groups, surveys. It involved over 500 people. And at the end of the research, the brand has to be your promise to the world, but it also has to be authentic. It has to really represent who you are. And we worked with two branding agencies, and they both came back to us and said, your mission is who you are. Everyone on your campus really embraces that mission. And as you know, our mission, the key words in our mission are think, act, work to advance the common good. And those are what became kind of, in the think, act, work part, are as important to our all for the common good as the all for the common good. That's what came out as the kind of cornerstones.
Some students have the perception that their voices were not involved during the rebranding discussions. Yeah. How can you respond to those concerns?
Well, what I'd like to do is share with you how voices were involved, and then I'd like to invite students to share with me their suggestions for how to get students better involved. But because we touched a number of students, but obviously that's not everyone. So we had a branding working group that worked on this project for a year and a half, and we had a student representative on that working group that was working on this for a year and a half. When we were in the research phase, we involved focus groups. We had focus groups with an undergraduate set of students. We had focus groups with a graduate set of students. We had a focus group with students of color, and we had a focus group with international students that were both undergrad and grad. Then, of course, we had several articles in the newsroom. We had several brown bags that were advertised for students to attend as well. And then finally, when we had the creative concepts and we were testing them, that was last fall of 2015, we did a presentation to the undergraduate student government. We did a presentation to a set of graduate students. We did a presentation to international students, and then Professor Steve Vuolo in the business school had an undergraduate marketing class, and he presented it to his students. So clearly we tried to reach out to students, but clearly there were some students who didn't hear our message. So I would really like to get suggestions from students, how we make sure they are aware of what's going on and that they are involved.
We've also heard some students wondering about how the rebranding effort was funded. What would you say to those students?
Well, our rebranding effort was funded as a part of our overall operating budget. And our operating budget is funded about 70% tuition and about 30% a number of other things. Some are some of our auxiliary services, some are some of our annual fund gifts. And so it was funded with the pool of funds, undergraduate, graduate, and the other sources of our revenue that fund all of our operating expenses. And I guess the other thing, though, I hope students will realize is that we hope one of the primary benefits of this branding effort is to help us in our recruitment of students to our undergraduate and our graduate programs, and to increase the reputation of university in, among the Twin Cities and the communities beyond.
In what ways has this rebranding already changed our campus?
Well, clearly visually it has. You mentioned the banners that are all around. You can look at my pen. I think we're getting, if I showed you a picture today, like I did, of all the different publications that were coming out now from the different programs, the undergraduate, the different schools and colleges, the centers and institutes, they would look the same. And so we're leveraging our dollars more because everything we put out there, people recognize, oh, that's St. Thomas. That message is consistent.
Going forward, how will this rebranding change the way those outside St. Thomas view the university?
Well, again, it is about that story that we're telling in a compelling, coordinated, consistent fashion. So we want, when we ask focus groups out, because some of the research involved people, the general public. What do you think of St. Thomas? It's a good university. Why? I don't know. We don't want them to say, I don't know again. And I think it's incumbent upon us now to say, how is what we're doing at St. Thomas, in our classrooms, out of our classrooms, what our faculty, our staff, our students in particular, and our alumni are doing in their own communities, how does that reflect this thinking, acting, working, all for the common good? And find those stories and animate them and highlight them. And then think to ourselves as we're making decisions within the university, is this decision consistent with think, act, work, all for the common good?
Thank you.
Thank you.
If you have a comment or an idea for a future In-Depth segment, tweet it to @TommieMedia. Thanks for joining us. With President Julie Sullivan, I'm Noura Elmanssy. We'll see you next time when we go In-Depth with TommieMedia.